Morning with butterflies in my stomach. Because in 3 days, as my voice cracks, in 3 days, you face off against Clemson. And it's of my humble opinion that this game with LSU going into South Carolina, going into Clemson, South Carolina, it is a program-defining game for you in the Brian Kelly era. Now, losing this game, does that mean that you don't have a chance to go to the playoff? No. Does that mean that you can't do some really good things against your SEC foes? No. Doesn't mean that you can't beat Florida. Doesn't mean that you can't beat Alabama. Doesn't mean all of those things. What it means, if you win, you can go out there and get ultimate momentum for what everyone believes and perceives of what the Brian Kelly era is at LSU. You have made this entire offseason, putting out that we're going 1-0. The only thing we're talking about this offseason is going 1-0. We're putting Paul Prince up in the weight room. Everywhere where they practice, it's a Tiger, LSU versus Clemson. Go 1-0. You have made everything about this. And what you've dictated, what your culture is, who you are in the SEC, everything feels like, for the perception to start the season, who are you, what are you, and what can you be under the Brian Kelly era? In 2022, I don't think anybody expected you to win the SEC West, because quite honestly, they didn't. The SEC polls and the SEC at SEC Media Days voted you to go 6-6 under Brian Kelly in year one because there was way too many question marks for what he had to overcome. You had 37 scholarship players when you entered this thing. You go out there with a kid named Jaden Daniels and win the West. You get massive upsets against teams like Alabama. And then you come back from 17 and you come back multiple times in games and you finish games strong against some really good opponents. The emergence of a guy like Harold Perkins happens when he single-handedly pretty much wins you the game versus Arkansas when the entire offense is going and fighting through the flu. And you might remember that game because they had chicken broth in a Gatorade bucket literally on the sidelines. Who are you and what are you going to be? Because in 2023, you turn right around with 2 first-round picks at wide receiver, a first-round left tackle, and the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. And you had, more than likely, the most prolific offense in all of college football. That it made you ask the simple question that if Jaden Daniels remotely had a defense, could you have been a playoff team? Could you have won the SEC? Could you have been in a situation where you made the 4-team playoff? Well, you didn't, because you had to fire your entire defensive staff because it didn't live up to snuff. You turn around in 2024 when you got all kinds of turnover. You got to replace a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. You got to replace 2 first-round wide receivers. You got to replace 2 draftees along your defensive line in the interior. You got brand new linebackers that are starting for the first time. And by the way, you had a revamped secondary and a kid that wasn't ready to play. And you started off the season in disappointing fashion against a team that more than likely that you should have beat. You had disappointing losses against Florida in the second half and what you had against Texas A&M. And then you did something in January that, myself included to some extent, which I was wrong in. You went out and did something that I didn't think that you would do. You went out and got the #1 portal class in the country. And you brought in guys like Barry M. Brown. You brought in guys like Jack Pyburn. You brought in guys like A.J. Halsey. You brought in guys like Tamarcus Cooley. You brought in all of these different guys that when you look at it on paper, you say to yourself, hey, man, you got a second-year quarterback returning. You got a lot of speed at wide receiver. Caden Durham returns. Man, from all that we've seen and we've heard, you are definitely better at edge. Don McKinley has gotten a lot of hype. Bernard Gooden coming out of camp. All we keep hearing is that he keeps getting tackles for loss. You got to revamp secondary. Can you go into the University of Clemson and win? Because a lot of people believe that not only could you be a title contender to win a national title, but our good friends over at FanDuel have you the 8th best team to win a national title. So people see and believe that you have hope. And look, FanDuel doesn't have a fight in this argument. They don't care what LSU record or what LSU is and what their record is. They're impartial to what it is. And it all leads down to this. What are you under Brian Kelly? Because as we just went through all of the things in the 4 seasons, well, really 3.5 seasons, but going into year 4, what are you? I think this game versus Clemson sends a message in week 1, win, and if you win, hey, man, all that stuff you said about Brian Kelly, everything and all the things that he had to overcome when getting here. Maybe it took him a little bit more time to rebuild what he wanted at LSU than maybe he anticipated. He went through a new era where transfer portal and NIL and TV revenue share are now a thing. Maybe we have to revamp what we think about what it looks like to ultimately rebuild the program. Because the bottom line truth is this, from a national perspective, from a local perspective, from every single perspective that you can think of, the number one thing coming out of that game is going to be, Brian Kelly couldn't get it done again. LSU couldn't get it done again. They just keep losing week 1 games. A lot of you are going to come on this show and say, Blake, we got to stop scheduling those tough games in the opener. And my reply is going to be, and remember that I'm saying this, my reply is going to be, well, guys, you're going to a 9-game conference schedule, and the SEC is mandating that you play another P4 team, not in your conference in the beginning of or end of the seasons. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to. You can put so much to rest. You can show everybody that you have arrived, because there are a lot of people nationally with massive followings and people that you probably think that if you're listening to the show, myself included, that you think that, hey, man, Clemson's really good. And some people believe they're going to win the ACC and make a playoff. But the bottom line fact remains, who are you as a program right now? That is what your week 1 game is technically against Clemson, but it really isn't. Your week 1 game is against the foresight of your program. Who are you? And what are you going to be? You got a lot of football ahead of you if you don't win this game against a really good opponent. But, man, you got to find a way. And you can say that, well, Blake, it doesn't matter what the the outside world thinks. And maybe you're right. It maybe doesn't matter. Because the truth is, I saw a team in Alabama get beat by Texas a couple of seasons ago, and what looked like the worst Saban team ever that he's had at Alabama outside that first year. And lo and behold, they won the freaking conference. And they made it to a playoff, and they're a play away from beating Michigan and going back to another national title. We've seen these things happen before. What are you and who are you? Can you go into Clemson and run the football? Can you go into – bottom line, boy, y'all better get ready for this, because keys to victory come tomorrow. Can you run the football? Are you a physical team? Are you a physical team? That's the ultimate question. We only got a couple more days to figure that out. All right, let's get moving here. D Payne on YouTube says, I agree 1,000 or 1,000,000% on the future of the program with this game versus Clemson. Guys, it is simple. It is very simple. Like, you lose another opener, the Monday morning headlines for Brian Kelly is going to be, he couldn't get it done. LSU can't get it done. Clemson went 0-3 against the SEC last year, and LSU choked away, and Clemson beat them. You know what it's going to be. And to be real with you, let's call it the truth. That's why Brian Kelly has made it all about this one. Let's get that monkey off of our back. Sounds good. And listen, I don't want to hear that BK didn't try to make this roster better because he spent $1 million of his own money. And I don't know any of you that would give $1 million of your own money to do that. Would you give your employer $1 million of the money that they gave you to win? A lot of you wouldn't do that. But it's 1,000% what the talking points are going to be. Drunk Vigo on YouTube says, if you beat Clemson, the Disney-controlled polls will have you at number 1. Maybe. I don't think they'll have you above the Texas or Ohio State winner. I don't think that there's any way that LSU gets to number 1 in the polls unless you blow out Clemson, and you got to beat them by 30-plus points. I mean, because, again, Ohio State and Texas, they're 1 and 2. They damn near may flip-flop. So it is what it is. Texas Vet on YouTube says, regardless, I just hope this squad remains healthy. Me too. You know, look, speaking of health, Dabo Swinney came out in his press conference today, which is the last for his media availabilities of the week, and said that Walker Parks, their right guard, has been practicing all week and is not 100%, but he will be a go on Saturday. So I hope Chris Hilton's had a healthy week. I hope Aaron Anderson's had a healthy week. I hope Garrett Nussmeier's had a healthy week. I hope everybody's had a healthy week. Because, man, you need everybody. You need everybody. Cajun Curveball says, I think our fans will melt and you'll see and you'll have more sunny. I don't know what that means. He also, with a $5 super chat, says, not to compare, but Blake, whiskey and wine with T-Bob got more views after a loss. You foresee you won't have as many after a loss. I disagree. No. Well, first off, I don't know why you're bringing up another show into this one. I don't even know if they're doing it anymore. Who knows? Who cares? Because we're going to be here. Guys, that's just not true. Cajun Curveball, that is not true. Because the truth of the matter is, if LSU wins, everybody's going to be happy and want to talk about it. People go in a shell. I'm telling you. Now, if it's a chaotic loss, let me give an example. Nothing beats the Bama numbers. They don't. I'm telling you, they don't. Because if you get on what you think is going to be a national title run in football, people are going to be here. Guys, after the Alabama game, because you had pretty much locked the West up at that point, not technically, but you did. When that happened, okay, and you won the West, those next 3 weeks, you were like, or next 2 weeks, it was 3 weeks, you were like, Blake, I mean, I know they could be 10-2, but if you beat Georgia, you're going to the playoff. You damn right you were going to the playoff. Bullshit. So we'll see. Billy says, LSU says Park is 75% at least. He will not finish the game. I don't wish injuries on anybody. I don't wish injuries on anybody. I want him to play. David Wooder says Blake making bank if LSU runs to the Natty. Oh, dude. What? Are you kidding me? 1,000%. 1,000%. Guys, it would be insane. It'd be insane. JTR says put Gooden on Parks. I agree with that. Not all game, but I agree with that. DA says, no, Blake, none of us gave $1 million of our own money, but the Bayou Collective fan money helped. 1,000% it did. And I think BK, if BK blows it this year, it's going to really hurt, and he probably loses the fan base. DA, I don't disagree with you there. That's not what I'm saying. What I was trying to say there is I've seen a lot of people say in the past, especially on message boards, like ours included, oh, BK doesn't care about this. He doesn't care about that. What I'm saying is don't tell me he doesn't care, right? Like, don't tell me that this doesn't mean a lot to him. I agree with you. I thought Jacques Doucette said it best when I was on with him on his podcast. If you lose to Clemson, the fan base will fire Brian Kelly. Guys, the fan base fired Jay Johnson after we lost the A&M series. I mean, we're really good at firing and hiring coaches. You get what I'm saying? So they compared that man to Ed Orgeron, for crying out loud. Good Lord. Jay Johnson had a press conference today, but we got a lot of football we need to talk about. I don't disagree with you. I don't think LSU makes a move unless it's really, 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 really bad. And even then, you got to ask yourself the question, in TV revenue era, how do some of these teams go about that? How do they go about that? So we'll see. All right, let's get moving here. Every show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Go over FanDuel today. Garrett Nussmeier moving up, plus 800, plus 900, and some odds. And to win the Heisman, do you want to place that bet? You can go and do that now. Do you think LSU is going to win the national championship? The best time to place these bets is to place them now in the beginning of the season. LSU plus 1,500 to win the national title. Go up and sign up for FanDuel today and bet responsibly, because, look, don't go in there and make some life-changing decisions based off of a college football game or NFL game or any game for that matter. If you have the discretionary income, go play some bets. Go have some fun, because it is really fun. And this season, we're partnered up with our great friends over at FanDuel, FanDuel.com. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to FanDuel.com/RG today. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, Brian Kelly makes a public statement on a teleconference. We'll get to that, and then we'll have Lawton Swann that joins us, and both coordinators for Clemson spoke with the media today as well, so we'll get to that. Stay with us. Oh, hold on. Thank you, Brandon. Everyone does do us a favor. Hit the like and share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Now, let me get to a quick break, and when we return, we got lots to discuss. Stay with us.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone, and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250.
We're here now with our good.
Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams, or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotion. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority.
We're back.
So, I love when we get feedback to the show. I love when you text into the show. Some of you have my personal number and you text into the personal text line. And all I got to say is, I love my new nickname from some of you. Pookie. She knows who she is. Nevertheless, the way the show started up and we opened up, that is your storyline. And the truth is, you better bring it. You better bring it. Because if you don't, and you're in a situation where you lose, man, I'm telling you, it's chaos is going to roar. We'll be here either way for it. All right, everybody do us a favor and hit the like and share. Brian Kelly was on the SEC teleconference today, and we barely bring this up. Normally, we bring up the Thursday message from Brian Kelly, and we normally don't break down every single one of his previews or every time he meets with the media, like he meets with Paul Feinbaum every Monday. We never talk about that. We'll talk about some of the things he says, some injury updates, just so we can have conversations about it. But we don't really talk about the SEC teleconference unless it's a really, really big deal. Today it was. In the SEC teleconference today, Brian Kelly was asked about Aaron Anderson. And in being asked a question about Aaron Anderson, I thought it was a really good question because I feel as if the last month, outside of Aaron Anderson was missing for a couple days or he didn't really go, they kind of limited him. He came back. He got some first-team reps, but he'd take a couple reps, catch a couple passes, then come out. It led to us not talking about Aaron Anderson at all, really, this fall camp. And it is true. We did not see Aaron have a massive camp. Like, there wasn't a lot that he did. There wasn't a lot that went on because they limited him. Now, I don't think that means that he's not going to play. I don't think that means he's not going to start. They just like, hey, he's got some tendonitis from a past surgery. We're just not risking it. We're going to give him connections with Garrett. And like you saw today in the social media post that LSU placed, it looks like Aaron Anderson's ready to go. In reference to Aaron Anderson for the season, Gussie's got to take that next step for you to do the things that you want to do. Aaron is a guy, when we look at him from a season ago, and even during the middle of the season, if you were watching, we had this conversation ad nauseum, and I know that there was a lot of debate. I had clarified last year that I thought Aaron Anderson was your number one receiver a season ago, and to me, it wasn't really close. When I look at Aaron's season a year ago, he had caught 61 passes for 884 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's about 68 yards per game for Aaron. I thought there were a lot of times throughout the season that he made the biggest plays for you down the stretch, like Ole Miss. I think about the Texas A&M game, even though you lost. He took a quick slant to the house. Every time that you needed something big, like the deep drag or deep post, whatever you want to call it, that Garrett Nussmeier hit Aaron Anderson on against Florida. There were a lot of situations where Aaron Anderson was a big-time addition for you. Played in all 13 games, had a kick return for a touchdown against Oklahoma that really benefited you when Garrett was out for about a half a quarter, that when he was able to come back, you were able to pull out that win. Because what should we expect from Aaron Anderson this year? And Brian Kelly did bring up in the SEC teleconference, in case you missed it, he brought up limiting him throughout camp. Can he take that next step? Because we have seen players from the state of Louisiana that are at that position, when they make their stamp on something, it normally comes this season. Now, he redshirted as a freshman. He got injured as a freshman, didn't play a lot in 2023. Then you come out in 2024, and he is your number one guy. The thing that we have not talked about the most for Aaron is with the additions of Barrion Brown and having speed guys and possession guys, and even though I don't know if he really characterized Nick Anderson as solely possession, is there were, and everybody knew this, when Chris Hilton went down a season ago, you couldn't stretch the field vertically, and it hindered what Aaron Anderson does best. Using his shiftiness, using his playmaking ability to get open against guys in the slot. And I think what has been very interesting and missed throughout the fall camp is when you are able to stretch teams vertically, and you cannot risk being in a situation where against Barrion Brown or Chris Hilton or Jelani Watkins, for that matter, when you have to be solely focused in on, man, are they about to hit one on us? Guys like Aaron Anderson shine in this situation. My anticipation for what is going to happen on Saturday, which we'll talk a lot about tomorrow, if teams are going to back out on you because you can't effectively run the football and they know that you got to sit back to throw, they are not going to take a chance that you don't hit one deep on them to start winning and converting on critical situations. When teams back out on you, the stuff underneath will open up. And it is just, quite frankly, where guys like Aaron Anderson shine the most. I think Aaron is in a situation where he can have a massive year. Can he build off the 61 catches he had a season ago? Can he build off the 884 yards he had a season ago? Can he build off of the 5 touchdowns he had a season ago? He hadn't talked about it much. There hasn't been a lot of situations where we've had to. So I say all that to say this. I think Aaron is going to benefit in this offense. I hope that him and Garrett take another step. I hope it kind of, to some extent, takes off from where it did at the end of the season. And I think Aaron's going to be a massive playmaker for you. How, when they do all that is up to them. But Brian Kelly being asked about Aaron Anderson, and I think Jacques Doucet asked a question, I think he's in for a big one. They are going to back out on you. Unless you're running the football at a very, very strong clip. You just go out there in 12 personnel and you start clapping them cheeks. Bad baby, bad baby. Guys, I think they're just going to back out on you and say, Garrett, we're going to test everything that you needed to work on in the offseason. Now, Garrett was asked literally yesterday about stuff that he worked on. He goes, I'm not telling you. Well, I'll give you a little bit of an idea from things that I hear just through the ether. Guys, there has been a massive emphasis on Garrett to step up in the pocket, take off when he needs to. And listen, if it's 2nd and 9 and Aaron Anderson's running a shallow drag, hit his ass and let us live for another down. Let us get to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. You don't have to force the ball vertically every single play because you did not have speed on the outside last year at wide receiver outside of Aaron. And Aaron's not built to be a guy that wins on the boundary. He is built for the inside. I think teams are going to back out on you, and Aaron could be a massive key in this game because I think some of the things that you can do throwing across the middle on this safety room, which we're going to talk to Lawton Swann. We already talked to him earlier today. We recorded a video with him. We're going to share it with you here. But it just gets to a place in time where I think Aaron has been massively slept on this offseason. He's been massively slept on this fall camp because if it would have been a situation where he doesn't get a little some tendonitis and he comes out there like Malik Neighbors did in 2023, guys, please, dear Lord, go back and listen to those fall camp reports in 2023 and what our conversations were. I double dog dare you, because it's Malik Neighbors is unstoppable. That's just it. Jane Daniels is pushing the ball down the field. Malik Neighbors can't be stopped. There you go. There was your practice reports every single day. You need one to be big. And I know that he feels in some conversations that I've had around that building, Aaron feels like that this is his year and that he's going to try to take it to some teams. I think him and Trey Dez are ultimate massive keys for you guys. I really do. I really do. If you can find number 1 and number 14 and number 10, depending on what they do at tight end, guys, I don't think they're great at safety. The last 2 years, a lot. Now, they've been better than you, okay? They've been better than you at safety. They hadn't been that atrocious. They hadn't been that ass. Okay, this isn't this isn't a mama shaking a wagon at. Like, they hadn't been that bad or that ass as we have been at safety. But they have not been good. And I ask Lawton this literally in just a moment. Attacking them in the middle of the field is going to be a big deal. Because I don't think that they can cover. I'm just going to be real with you. I saw a slow-ass tight end obliterate them at safety. Obliterate them. And they have a starting safety that's been nicked up all fall camp. Take it to their ass. Find out what happens. All right. Couple other things. Brian Kelly was asked about competitiveness. He was asked about the intensity of this fall camp. I hate to bring this back up, but it happened again. Guys, I had one question to Brian, actually two, excuse me. I've asked Brian Kelly 2 questions this season so far. 2. I don't like bothering the man. 2 questions. One of them that he keeps harping on. Guys, I don't know of what I'm about to say is going to lead you to a win. I don't know. This has by far been the most competitive camp that LSU has had since 2022. It is not close. In 2022, you had a lot of guys battling out for a lot of positions, and it breeded some things for you in competition where, listen, man, if you take today off, somebody's going to take your spot. I think of some situations where Bernard Gooden just kept making plays. He just kept making plays, and he kept running back out there. Gabe Rutherford kept making plays. Well, Blake, we got Jamari Butler, Patrick Payton, and Jack Pyburn. And he's been making plays. But as Brian Kelly said earlier this week about Gabe Rutherford, hey, man, we did challenge him. We brought in 3 new edge guys. We challenged the shit out of everybody, but none more than edge. Guys, newsflash, LSU spent a lot of money at edge this offseason. A lot. I'm not going to say it's the biggest position. A lot. And Gabe Rutherford said no. This camp has been nothing but high intensity. There were days, and I tweeted this, I may be prisoner of the moment. Maybe I am. I thought I was going crazy. I don't think I was. It's been the most competitive camp that you've had in Brian Kelly's tenure at LSU. They have been getting, and look, the offensive line, for what it's worth, we've given them a lot of shit. A lot of shit this offseason. They haven't done a lot. They haven't been good enough. But I'd be damned if they're not trying to work the simple nature of what you're seeing in your front seven and what that front seven gave to them, because they've been getting their asses whipped. And in that, what has happened is, guys, it's breeded you not knowing who's going to, I think it's Weston Davis, but who's going to start right tackle? It will be Weston Davis. You have no idea who's going to be your left guard. And they're rotating guys in and out at the end of this. Hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but here we go. None of that leads to wins. Because what is this offensive line? We don't know. What is this defensive front seven? We do not know. We can go into the season and be like, man, the offensive line was the thing that really struggled this year. It really struggled. And ultimately, that's why we're 9-3 sitting on the, the outside looking in. Or you look back and say, you know what? Those fall camps were right. That front seven is really good. And this offensive line, they're not great, but they were average. And they faced off against some really good talent. The competitiveness has never been higher. But here's the truth, and we kind of led the show off to this. Because everybody's feeling the pressure. Pressure is either going to make diamonds or it's going to crush you. There's no in-betweens. It's either going to make a diamond or crush you. I bring this up to say, now that we're going into this game, and Brian Kelly keeps bringing this up because he keeps getting asked, the truth of the nature is I feel like that we've seen some of the more intense, high competitive days that we've ever seen, that I've ever seen. Now, I know that there have been situations where on some message boards, y'all send me these DMs about people talking about me on Tiger droppings, and that's all cool, whatever. All this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, well, then why does it keep getting brought back up? The reason it keeps getting brought back up, because quite honestly, guys, it's what's happening. Every single talking point that you and I have had for the last month could all be fugazi. It could all be for naught. And we say, you know what? Practice was just practice. I'm not a firm believer in that, right? Like I firmly believe that when you see a lot of things, you know that you're seeing something special. We thought that this offensive line was going to be able to run the football a season ago, and it wasn't the case. They were just facing off against a defensive front seven that just couldn't stop it. And we got fugazied. Which one is it? Which one is it? Find out in a couple of days. Brian Kelly, I know that people aren't really worried about this. Brian Kelly asked about the 9-game conference schedule. Guys, stop asking, because there's no coach in America that has a set of balls that's going to say, no, we don't want 9 conference games. Because coaches want to play the best. It's what they say. They're not going to tell you what they really think. Can y'all stop asking? To the media out there, stop asking. How many times can Brian Kelly bring this up? I want 9 conference games. No, you don't. You already have the toughest strength of schedule. Newsflash to BK. Right now, you're projected to have the number 2 strength of schedule in the country, and you don't play Georgia and you don't play Texas. That's what your projection is. You are projected to have the 2nd toughest schedule in the country. I easily can make the argument that it's the number 1 toughest schedule in the country. Then I look at Oklahoma's and say, I don't know. I don't know. Because they still got to play you. They still got to play Bama. They still got to play Texas. And then I'm like, I don't know. It's your projection. It's your projection. Guys, if you're going to make it to a playoff, if you're going to make a push in the playoff, guys, you're going to do a lot of things very special. I think you're going to be very special. So we'll see. All right. Before we get to Lawton Swann here, let's get to a couple things. I see a couple comments in the chat I want to get to. Bingo. We actually talked about this with Lawton. No, I don't see either team getting blown out. But I also didn't think LSU was going to get blown out versus Florida State, but that defense just sucked that bad. They actually were that bad. You know, let me say this, because it kind of goes to my last point. In 2023, I didn't think you were that bad defensively. I thought you were bad. I didn't know you were that bad. I'm still old enough to remember, by the way, podcast hosts that were calling me out on their show saying I was wrong about Denver Harris, by the way. Oh, good Lord. No, I wasn't. And if you talk to anybody in that building, you would have known. Anybody. We were so bad that we were justifying Denver Harris not playing because he kept showing up late to meetings over and over and over again. Be on time. You can't create discipline if people are on time. Sorry. Anyway. Tom Allen, the DC of Clemson, and Garrett Riley met with the media today. I want to bring this up before we get to Lawton and the interview with Lawton. Tom Allen was asked something today, their DC, about their safety room. Something that I'm very much monitoring. And I ask Lawton this in just a second. Guys, the film bears it out. The questions from Clemson media bears it out. I really wonder if a weakness for them defensively, because every team's got weaknesses. I know Clemson fans love to come on our channel and talk shit, which, by the way, I need all of you LSU fans, to come in here and the YouTube channel when things are posted, like after the show. Man, they talking all kinds of shit. All kinds of shit. Anyway, Tom Allen was asked about his safety room, and he talked about the development of some young players, true sophomore players. He talked about their development and said, man, they've taken massive steps. They've looked really good. They've had some injury there to one of their longtime starters. Guys, the question for me with Clemson defensively, we have talked a lot about their defensive line and them beating us and our offensive line not being good. We've talked about former five-star linebacker, top 10 linebacker or top 10 player, in the country, and Sammy Brown. They brought in Will Helt from Purdue. Wade Woodaz returns. Like, we've made those projections. Aiden Terrell is out at the boundary, number 20 for Clemson at DB. Last time we faced off against Terrell, there's a receiver with number 1 on 2 that, well, I'm going to leave that alone. Does it duplicate itself? I hope it does. With all of that being said, I think their biggest weakness is at safety. I really do. I think that their media corps knows it, and that's why Tom Allen got asked that question 3 times today. 3. I think attacking the middle of the field is going to be, and getting those safeties out in space. Get them out in space. If and when you do that, I think Clemson's going to be a little bit terrified. What is interesting about Tom Allen in this regard, for Penn State last year, he brought a safety down into the box in a big nickel, kind of like what you did, and he blitzed a lot from that slot position. I don't know how he reacts to a safety room who they're all wondering about. Again, we'll bring up the scenario. Are we in a situation where Trey'Dez Green, Bauer Sharp, Aaron Anderson, Caden Durham, more than what we've talked about all camp, and that being, oh, man, the speed for Chris Hilton and Barry and Brown, man, we're going to really stretch them vertically. Yeah, you can do that. I don't know in this game if not attacking their safeties is not the way to go. It also can solve a very big, what we believe or perceive to be a very big issue. That very big issue is your offensive line. Can you imagine getting Trey'Dez Green on a route 5, 10 to 15 yards when he's lined up against a safety or even a backer for that matter? Because these safeties are going to have to guard somebody. You can't hide them, especially if you spread them out. When that happens, can you get them out of space and get the ball out quickly for Garrett and take some of that rush off of him and attack their biggest weakness? At least right now, what perceives to be their biggest defensive weakness. For me, in watching them, guys, please, dear God, go back and watch the Texas game. Go back and watch Louisville. Tyler Shough attacked down the middle of the field and then would hit a boundary shot to Chris Bell. Attacked. Tight end. They kept doing it over and over again. So Tom Allen, the DC for Clemson, is asked about this. It's going to be interesting to see how he covers it up. Can you, as an offensive staff, be in a situation where you're able to take advantage of that? You got the weapons to. So we'll see. Another thing Tom Allen was asked was about his defensive line. Tom Allen responded and said, I had a really good defensive line last year at Penn State. He did. Said this is one of the more talented units that I've been a part of. It very well may be. Guys, we'll do one more show, and that's tomorrow. I'm probably going to have one thing that I got to say. One big topic. So all we're going to discuss is keys to victory. Keys to victory. God, I miss. Can you schematically get it done? Can you get it done? You already, listen. There is nothing that you have not known about your team since spring that has not been a worry for you offensively. Doesn't exist. It's been all about the offensive line. All about the O-line. Schematically, it's got to show itself. You can't worry about what Garrett wants to run or what the plays that he likes the most. You got to do that to some extent. But there might be a deficiency. And by God, Aaron Anderson, Trey'Dez Green, Chris Hilton, Bauer Sharp, Barrion Brown, Nick Anderson, Kyle Parker, Xavion Thomas. Guys, I hate to tell you this, but the game comes down to you. Because everybody wants to point at the offensive line and say, man, it all comes down. It does. You're right. The offensive line's got to be big. But guys, if you can't run the ball, you can't give up. You're not going to give up, which means you're going to have to get the ball out quick. And these receivers got to be special. You get the ball out quick and these guys are trying to rush the passer and trying to get after Garrett, they're not going to want to do it for 4 quarters. They're not going to want to do it. May easily fall to that. We'll see if that defensive line is as good as he says. The only thing I have for Garrett Riley is this. Guys, the other thing that I think Clemson fans and media, and a big talking point coming out from them this season has been moving converted wide receiver Adam Randall to running back. And the only thing that I'm going to say here is this. Guys, we have no clue what their run game is. It might be very good. You might be able to stop it. Adam Randall's a hell of an athlete. 6'2", 235 pounds, can run, had a kick return last year that set them up. And basically, guys, his kick return won them the ACC championship game. Kid can fly, and he's a big guy. He's had some injury issues. He's had some fumbling issues. Because defensively against the run, you have not been good either. Go take it to him. See what happens. All right. Let's do this. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, we talk to our good friend Lawton Swann from Clemson Sports. He joins us next. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. I'm on Twitter and wherever he is, at Clemson Sports. He's been on AYS before, and LSU heads up to Clemson, South Carolina this upcoming weekend. Good evening, good sir. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, Blake, always great to hang out with you, man, and talk a little Tigers v. Tigers, buddy.
It is. You know, I can only say and talk about Clemson's defensive line for so long before I just start getting exhausted about hearing about TJ Parker's 20 tackles for a loss last season. But nevertheless, we do got a game that we have to talk about, and let's get right into it. I guess, Lawton, there's been so much made of this game and so many different things to discuss. I guess when you look at this game going into Saturday, what are your thoughts?
Well, first off, one of the things I've talked about mostly during my show the past couple of weeks is when you look around the country at all these marquee matchups, I mean, this is one where you have two guys that have been in the system, been in the program. So at quarterback, you should have a ton of experience with Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik. And I think that's kind of the fascinating thing is how these two programs mirror each other quite a bit at that position in an era where everybody leaves at the smallest breeze that they might not get a chance to start. These two guys stuck it out. And I think over the long haul for both programs, I think this is a good sign. I know there's a lot of trepidation about Brian Kelly at LSU in the mind's eye of a lot of LSU fans. But, man, to be able to keep a quarterback in a system in this era behind a guy like Jaden Daniels a couple of years ago, that's tough to do. So you got to give him credit. So I think that's where this begins. The two quarterbacks, and whichever one plays better, their team's got the best chance to win the game for sure.
Yeah, I listened to Klubnik's interview today, and he talked about that, them being at the Manning Passing Academy, and that being in Louisiana, and just like, hey, man, we're the two oldest people there that aren't in the pros, and I do think it's kind of ironic that you have those two situations that are happening by two teams that face off normally. And like you said, in today's society, doesn't really work like that. Let me ask you this, because I think both of them are going to need a rushing attack. Now, I'm going to ask you about Adam Randall, which has been a big deal. But I think a lot from an LSU side of things has been LSU being 108th in the country last year in rushing, going against this front seven with Woodaz, Sammy Brown, TJ Parker, Peter Woods. But Clemson was 85th in the country last year in rushing. Tom Allen comes in, What are your overall thoughts now that he's been here in that front seven? Do you think that is something that has been fixed since his addition?
Well, he talks about accountability. He talks about tackling better, and that was an area where I think people really felt like Clemson needed to improve. Looking at it, I don't think until we see them on game day against LSU in the opener, you'll know for sure. And that's what makes these games so uncertain for everybody. I don't care who you root for. I mean, you can think your team is great, and maybe they are. But until those pads start popping Saturday night, you really don't know, Blake. And that I think is the great question for both of these teams. Both of these teams could make the college football playoff. Both of these teams probably have enough personnel if the ball bounces their way to win the national championship. The question is, in game one, which team comes out and doesn't have, some of those hiccups that we see in the first week of college football. Last year, Clemson and Georgia, first half, the Bulldogs, a little 6-0 lead. You're not feeling completely out of the game. And then, bam, in the second half, they just nail you. And so that's what Clemson's got to avoid is the letdown in the second half. I thought a year ago when Georgia pulled away from Clemson, it kind of showed that the Tigers weren't deep enough to run with the Dogs out of the SEC. And in this game, I think that would be the concern for maybe both sides coming in. I think it benefits Clemson that this game is at home. But all in all, defensively, until they start playing and we see what this looks like, I can't tell you whether or not they're going to be better, but I would assume they would be because they've got a guy with a lot more experience running the show over there with Tom Allen.
TJ Parker officially back in the interior, I'm assuming, correct? I mean, not TJ Parker.
Peter Woods.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah. Peter Woods and Capehart will be on the interior. My assumption is it'll be Will Helt and then TJ Parker on the outside. Dabo Swinney didn't put out I'm sure you probably saw his press conference, didn't put out a depth chart. Ooh, this, the mysterious.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's one of those things where Clemson's got a lot of guys. They'll roll in there, and I think they're pretty comfortable with who they have. But I think questions on the LSU offensive line is something that probably I would imagine your listeners are a little bit concerned about in this game. And then I think the environment, week one, how loud it's going to be, a night game, like none of that stuff plays in LSU's favor. Like I think it's favorable for Texas that they're going into the Horseshoe at noon. I think LSU would have probably preferred to play in Death Valley at Clemson at noon, but it is what we've gotten. But it's not something that LSU's not accustomed to, right? I mean, you guys play in tough venues, night games all the time. But again, season openers, we've seen that ball is oblong for a reason, and it bounces funny.
It does. I made the joke to one of our sponsors. The guys over at FanDuel, and I'm like, listen, I don't wake up until 10:30 when LSU plays. So don't be kicking the ball off at 11 a.m. noon kickoff because that just ain't going to work for me. Lawton Swann, Clemson Sports, joins us. Is there something when you look at Clemson versus LSU on your side, is there something you're like, oh, Clemson probably can exploit this and take advantage, and this is where they win?
I think Clemson's offensive line is really good. They got a lot of continuity. Walker Parks is kind of up in the air on whether or not he'll be able to go because of a lingering issue from the injury that he picked up during fall camp. But, the offensive line is pretty buttoned up, and that would be a place where I would think people would hope that Clemson could win. Now, you mentioned Adam Randall at running back. Mm-hmm. He's only had a couple of plays. Yeah, he had the big 41-yard run at Texas that sort of sparked things. And I think there's hope that he can be the guy for Clemson this year. But, I mean, it's anybody's guess. I mean, everything right now with that running game is anybody's guess. I think if Clemson's going to exploit anything in this matchup, it probably comes down to the offensive line protecting, giving Cade Klubnik enough time. And then the other thing, too, would be the fact that Cade Klubnik, if you look at it, his ability when a play breaks down to make plays with his legs, that's probably an area where he might be a little bit undervalued nationally with that in his back pocket by comparison to Garrett Nussmeier, who really that's not a part of his game. Now, it could be. Listen, it would not be beyond my belief that LSU kind of knows that Clemson is probably going to think that Nussmeier is not going to be willing to pull the ball down. So he's a little bit more aware during the game that, hey, I got to make some of those plays with my legs. But that's the thing. Giving Cade Klubnik the time, and when it breaks down, having Cade Klubnik be able to make plays with his legs. Those would be kind of the X factors for me because I think Adam Randall and David Iziamume and anybody else, Gideon Davidson, that you put in at running back, what are you going to get? You just don't know. You haven't seen it really live. I love the wide receivers. I think Tyler Brown coming back is underrated. But this is Cade Klubnik and his ability to make something happen, and not when he's making something happen, kind of screw it up like has happened at times during his career.
Yeah, you think of the Texas run and the what was it, South Carolina, when he scored twice. I think of him hitting the sidelines twice, and I'm like, that's Anthony Hill you're running away from. That might be the best linebacker in the country. Let's just call it what it is. And Brian Kelly brought that up a lot, and LSU just has not had a lot of luck stopping running quarterbacks. Speaking of
and I don't mean to cut you off, but if you go back to when Jaden Daniels is there at LSU, I mean, that's the exact reason that he's the Heisman Trophy winner, and you see what he's doing in the NFL. When you have the ability, when things go bad, you're talking about a hat on a hat. When your quarterback can impact the game with his legs, all of a sudden now it's 11 on 11, and it's much more difficult to defend versus what we typically would call 11 versus 10.
No doubt. And I think that, for me, that's why, I think you bringing up the running game, especially Klubnik's legs, is a big deal here when you talk about exploitation, because LSU just didn't stop it. Lawton, it was their biggest struggle. And I do wonder how much of an emphasis that is. I will address this Adam Randall thing with you. The SMU game, the kick return, that sets everything up. I mean, you talked about the Texas stuff. I listened to Dabo this week. I listened to him last week. I think it was on some form of podcast or whatever. And he's like, look, the best thing the kid does is when the ball gets in his hands, he's just explosive. Man, the kid's explosive, though. And I think that that's the hope that you were talking about in reference to him, correct?
Yeah, and I think you got to be able to hold on to the ball. Like, you're going to get hit from, when you're going through the line of scrimmage. And listen, my time running through the tackles is limited in my life. It happened a few times. But you do get hit from some different angles versus what I think typically wide receivers deal with. So that's one thing. The good news is he's got a lot more tread on the tire because he hasn't been in that grind every game for 4 seasons. The fact that this is kind of new to him too, I think you might just catch a little bit of lightning in a bottle with him. But, I mean, physically, he's a big guy. I know people bring up Derrick Henry. I mean, could you just pick the best running back in the world to compare him to? But when they talk about that, they're just talking about his size, Blake. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, he's about the size of Derrick Henry. Henry's got him in the weight department by just a little bit. But, whether or not he can be an explosive running back for Clemson in this game and this season, I think will go a long way to telling Clemson's story as well. Where I really like him, and Dabo Swinney's talked about this a lot, and it makes perfect sense. He knows all the route trees. They're going to be able to flank him out and go 5 wide. They can go start 5 wide and bring him in. Like, there's a versatility that he kind of gives you formation-wise. When Garrett Riley came over from TCU, the day Clemson hired him, I put on, with YouTube TV, you can run I had my 2 computer screens on multiple games and my other TV. I was watching 3. I was like, look at the creativity. But then he came in and I didn't really feel it. I feel like now with Adam Randall at running back, he might, can be a little mad scientist-y with this thing this year and figure out some formations and some things where you spread a defense out. They think they got to put on a nickel package. Then you motion into your running back in the backfield as Adam Randall, or you hit him with the reverse, right? You start off set up in a normal formation, flank him out, and now you've got a competitive advantage because you got 5 wide receivers on the field. That, to me, over the long haul, I think Blake could be the biggest impact that Adam Randall has. But he's got to stay healthy. He's been banged up throughout his career. But, man, with the ball in his hands, he looks good.
He does. And, Lawton, you bring that up. I'm talking about this a lot tomorrow. How much is Harold Perkins on him going to be a big deal? Is that the matchup we see now that Perkins moved out to star? That's the matchup that I think in and of itself is something that I'm going to be paying attention to. So we'll see there. To flip the question on you, is there something that you think that Clemson doesn't do well that you think LSU can try or was going to try to exploit that you're like, no, we got to make sure this is okay?
Yeah, I like Clemson's cornerbacks. I do like Avion Terrell and Ashton Hampton. Hampton's a big kid. I think Ashton Hampton, if you talk about guys that I think prototypically like the SEC frame at corner, he's got it. And I think LSU fans, when they see him, will go, yep, you're right, Swanee. But I think, Mark Packer, I'm sure you know Mark. I think he said it best. Mark Packer, Frisbee catching dogs. I mean, I think LSU's got some dudes that you can roll out there at wide receiver, bringing in the Berrien kid from Kentucky and the impact that he can have. I mean, man, and Clemson's seen that firsthand when they played against him in the bowl game a couple of years ago. And I'm not going to say he's the bottom end of the spectrum, but to me, he's the mid tier for you guys. And I think from there, it just goes up. And so that would be the thing. I think Nussmeier, 4,000 plus yards passing, elite arm. He's a top 10 probably pick, top 20 for sure in the NFL draft. I don't know where people are projecting him right now. I think some of the projections I see for Cade Klubnik are insane, seeing him as number one. I mean, maybe he lives up to that, but I even saw an ESPN guy say he's not Trevor Lawrence, and I agree. If you said to Clemson people, Cade Klubnik, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Klubnik is in the back of the bus. He's still fighting. People would we play him over Taj Boyd in this game? I mean, that's still where people are with Cade Klubnik. They're waiting. We actually put a story up on the website kind of about how maybe the tenor of who he can be has changed. But from that standpoint, Nussmeier's elite, man, elite arm, elite talent. And if they can protect him in the offensive line, like I said earlier, I know that's a bit of a bugaboo for you guys right now. Maybe not a bugaboo, but it's a concern coming into the game. If they can protect him, man, he's got guys he can throw the ball to. And Hampton and certainly Avion Terrell at corner, I like, but you got to match up with everybody that's out there. And that's where, I would have concern. I don't know enough selfishly, I'll be honest, to talk about your tight end situation. I just know this. We're in an era where still the tight end can be a significant factor in the ball game. And I know when we were playing against you guys in the national championship game and you had Moss out there, I mean, he's killing us left and right. And so that would be another area where I would go, okay, how does that look? Because I still, unlike a lot of programs, I feel like sometimes value that position. I don't want to see the tight end go the way of the fullback.
Well, I'll say this. My key to victory, I brought this up yesterday, and it's you kind of walked into my next question, but I just want to say this. Trey Green's a dude now, former 5-star, 6'7", 245 pounds. I mean, he played basketball last year, Lawton, and I mean, he's blocking shots against dudes from Bama going down the court and then dunking it on their face. And I'm like,
right.
That's a tight end. So then he's just focusing on football. And Brian Kelly graciously gave us 14 practices that we were able to go to. And I'm like, dude, okay. And Harold Perkins starts trying to push him, get out of my rep. I don't want to see you no more. The reason I say that too was because in listening to Dabo, and I want your thoughts on this, and then listening to Tom Allen and some of the questions that came up today and yesterday, is there a concern at safety at all? Because it seems like those questions keep coming up. And I'm like, I don't know if there really is, but why does Dabo and Tom why does that question keep coming up in these press conferences from people? Is the safety room something that you're looking at too?
Well, Khalil Barnes has been a playmaker his entire career, but he's been a little bit banged up here during the fall, and he has a chance. He has a chance to, get the 10 turnovers in his career interception wise, and he's at 7 right now. He was an undervalued prospect, 3-star recruit coming out of high school, was committed to Wake Forest. This is a kid that grew up in the backyard of the Georgia Bulldogs. As a matter of fact, when I interviewed him as a recruit, he was laying in his bed that his grandma had bought him as a kid, Georgia headboard, right? I mean, this guy was all in with the Bulldogs. And, I mean, seriously, he's like, my grandma catered for Georgia. I love the Bulldogs. But he ends up getting an offer and from Clemson and flips from Wake Forest, and he's been impactful. But, health right now for him is kind of the thing I think they're looking at. And the other guys that are behind him are a little bit younger, maybe a little bit more influenced by a quarterback that looks off a safety to bring a guy open and things of that nature. I don't think Clemson's bad at any position, much like I don't think LSU's bad at any position. I mean, you don't recruit the way these two programs recruit to be bad anywhere. But I think just the youth of some of the guys, Ricardo Jones, and then, Ronan Hannafin's a converted wide receiver. Dabo Swinney's talked about him a lot. When they brought him in, He was kind of a guy that had played both ways in high school, and you know how some of these kids are. They want to be on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
Not everybody says I want to be the hitter and not the hittee. A lot of guys like to be the guy in the end zone, but he's a guy that's transitioned and trying to figure it out. And they've got some more depth there than just those guys. But I think it's youth and inexperience if Khalil Barnes isn't on the field. But the thing that Khalil Barnes can give you, he's a versatile guy. I mean, he's not to the level of like Isaiah Simmons in terms of his versatility, but he's pretty close. I mean, he's pretty talented. You can play him just about anywhere on the field. And if he's healthy, I think they feel really good. And if he's not, I think they probably have concern, and rightfully so. It's game one. I mean, you get out there, you have never played in that type of environment in terms of the magnitude of that moment, top 10 matchup. A million things are swimming in your head. Next thing you know, if you got a young guy out there, it's a busted coverage. But heck, in a game like this, next thing you know, if you got a star, man, it can be a busted coverage. We've seen it time and time again, but that's why I think we love this sport. The unpredictability of it all is what makes it so interesting for everybody.
Last one from me. It's simple. How do you think it goes down? What do you think happens ultimately here?
Man, I typically give my prediction on the Friday show. I did all the over-unders for college football this year. And when I look at Clemson, I think it's legitimate. You could say this is a team that could go 12-0, and I think 9-3 is a disappointing year for the Tigers. I think you had some letdowns. So, I like Clemson to win the game because it's in Clemson. If this game was in Baton Rouge, I probably feel differently. I probably feel about the same way I do about LSU. Like, they can win this game, and I wouldn't be shocked if they did. But I think because it's home, the quarterback situation at Clemson is good, much like it is at LSU. And I think that number's probably about right. I mean, if LSU comes in and wins the game, it's because they deserve it. And if Clemson wins, it's because the Tigers deserve it. I think it's going to be a tight ball game. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'll tell you this. If somebody blows somebody out, I think I'll be shocked.
Me too.
I think it's going to be a good game.
Me too. Yeah,
but I would lean Clemson. That home field.
Right.
I cover Clemson, but I think if they were playing but I'll be honest, if they were playing in Baton Rouge, I'd probably lean LSU on this one.
All right, that is our interview with Lawton Swann. As you can see, our internet is pretty much crap the bed. I very much hate that our internet has crapped the bed, but it did, and it is what it is. It's kind of coming back now. The full extended edition with our conversation with Lawton Swann will be posted on YouTube tomorrow. We did have another question. We talked about the game next year between Clemson and LSU in the 9-game conference schedule, but that is our breakdown with Lawton Swann over at Clemson Sports, guys, iHeartRadio, one of the biggest media guy in Clemson sports. So I greatly appreciate Lawton for stopping by. I don't know what happened with the recorded video on our end. It was crystal clear, but then, of course, you get on this stupid app and you try to stream stuff, then it craps the bed. All right. Let's do this. Let me get to one quick break. We'll come back. I'll field some of your thoughts, questions, concerns, and we'll get out of here. Hey, Southwest Louisiana. Are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat, go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by.
We're back.
All right. Daniel on Facebook says Clemson is going down. Blue chip ratio for Clemson and special teams carry the day. Hope so. Really hope you're right. Hold That Tiger says nobody is scared of your 80,000 seat stadium, boss. Hey, man, listen. Here's what I'll say. I don't think we're scared to go into Clemson. I think you've played in better environments other than Clemson. I don't think that they have a better – you saw way far better – I don't think they have the best environment in South Carolina. I think it does go to South Carolina regardless of what happens on Saturday. However, how big of a situation are you in? I mean, I'm going to keep talking about it. I don't think anybody look, we'll see. I'm not intimidated by it, and I don't think any LSU fan, and Lawton said that. Like, listen, man, this isn't something you haven't done. Y'all did it last year. Of course they did. Of course they did. Brambo says Pyburn has one total of 1 career sack. Brambo, as an LSU fan, man, you have hated on this team, buddy. I mean, we get it. You don't like this LSU team. We get it. I think he gets more than 1 this year. This is Barryon Brown is going to keep us in the game no matter what. Your vertical presence keeps you in any game. Yes. Jordan Trahan says, I hope DJ Pickett gets some crucial interceptions. Here's the thing, man. I've told y'all this, but I don't know if all of you have been listening. I think DJ Pickett is going to play on Saturday. I do not think he's going to start. I don't think he's going to start. So I think it might be P.J. Woodland based off of what we saw the last 2 weeks of camp. I think it might be P.J. Woodland based off of what they've done. Jay Smack says Brambo hates in every stream, every day, LOL. Literally all he does is hate. Yeah. Yeah. Y'all hate on me. This says Blake Brambo is a glass empty kind of guy. Oh, man. He's pour the whole shit out for the homies kind of guy. In reference to, he's pouring it all out in the sink. You know what I mean? Alex Jr. says more than 1. Don't know what that means. More than 1 what? Cajun Proud on Twitter says Dabo hasn't been good since Trevor. Well, yeah, I agree. They haven't been great. Are they going to be great this year is the question. Keys to victory tomorrow, man. I think I'm more excited about tomorrow than I've ever been. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.